is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 75 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So we had NXT Takeover 31 this past weekend. We had a big football weekend, for everyone else. And we also had a bunch of news that came out too. Of course, the biggest piece of news that is coming out from this past weekend is WWE taking over the Twitch accounts of the wrestlers. Now, it also has been said that they're also doing this with the Cameo accounts as well. So according to Wrestling Inc., they are the ones who also broke the news about the Twitch accounts. It looks like that the Cameo accounts will be turned over to the company, and they will be signing some type of new agreement that says that the talent and firm that WWE is their authorized representative. Talent authorized Cameo to all payments and any other compensations to WWE. Cameo will not be a party in any dispute between the talent and WWE, and the authorization can be canceled at any time, only if the account is canceled. I know that there are a number of superstars who are on Cameo, and there are a bunch of wrestlers who are upset about what's going on. Roderick Strong had tweeted out last week that he will be closing out his Cameo account. He mentioned for everyone to, get their orders in while they still can. And he tweeted that out back on October 1st as well. I think also Paige mentioned that she sounds like she is upset. She tweeted out, "Twitch is my place, what I built with my wonderful fans, a place where people can go and feel some positivity and little bit of normalcy. Fun, interactive, non-judgmental, charitable place. I'm proud of what I built with my fan base." And then someone made someone had replied and said, yeah, but your fame got you the fan base, not like you grind from one viewer like most streamers. She said, "Nah, difference is I grinded for 15 years for my fan base that I brought over to Twitch. Also dropping raids and 50 bombs on smaller streamers to help them grow. Not for bitter people like you, though. Work hard and you'll get a fan base too." Zelina Vega also tweeted out, "And help people, including me, get introduced to what is now my favorite platform, filled with positive, like-minded, amazing people, just looking to have fun during hard times in the world. It's where people support each other and grow together, a family. Always grateful to you. And host charities for people and animals in need. Yesterday, we raised enough money to help someone get their cat the surgery they needed to survive. We love what we built and work hard for." And then Mia Yim also tweeted out, "Gaming has been my escape from reality and a way to interact with friends and fans throughout this difficult few months. The community that I gained on Twitch also helped me raise funds for a friend's burial expense and a friend's kidney transplant. That's why I game." Dakota Kai tweeted out, "Starting Twitch up again was purely for 3 reasons: to have fun as a gamer, communicate with y'all during a difficult year, and to give as much possible back to different charities. Thank you all for the continued support." And there are a lot of more people who are on Twitch. One of the members of the Lucha House Party, Drew Gulak, who I was actually watching on, I think it was Saturday night, or it was either Saturday night or Sunday night. He was playing Resident Evil 7, and it was about maybe about 20, 30 of us watching him, and we were sitting there. He had a heart rate monitor on, and we were tweeting to him about, the game and different things going on. He was interacting. And so it's a nice platform for the wrestlers to kind of be able to interact more with their fans. And it also brings a sort of a big support for them as well, especially for people like Drew Gulak. Watching Raw tonight, we're only seeing Drew Gulak in about 5-minute segments for the 24/7 title. But hearing him talk about wrestling and his wrestling school and different things about his life on Twitch, you kind of get to know him more and you become more of a fan. I'm a fan of his because he is from Philly, so I gotta have that Philly support. But hearing the things that he was talking about, what he's trying to do for people, to who's trying to break into wrestling and everything like that, is more support for him. I don't understand why WWE is trying to take over the Twitch accounts. It can't be about money because they made money and they have different deals of course, the Saudi Arabia deal, where they have made money. And if I remember correctly, they made a lot of money. They made a good profit this past quarter as well. I think it's about control, of course. I understand from it's, a straight up business protocol. You want to restrict what could happen. You don't want to be liable, for example, if one of the wrestlers says something offensive on a stream, or if there was, a type of back and forth with the fans in their chat, or, they say something and it gets blown up. Somebody, screenshot it or record it and put it up, send it over to TMZ. I understand that prospect. I work for a new company, and they're very strict about what you do outside the company because they don't want to end up in the news. And they want to make sure that there is no conflict of interest with you. So if you're doing anything outside the company, like if you are planning to interact with politicians or anything like that, they want to know it first. You have to clear it through them first. So I understand that aspect of the business. I understand that, if one of the wrestlers were to say something that may be detrimental, the first thing that all the media will go to is the fact that this person is tied to WWE. And people will make that comparison and, tie to whatever this wrestler said to, this must be the views of WWE. I mean, we've seen it all the time with what happens with different wrestlers. Wrestlers say something or wrestler do something. It, impacts the way that you kind of view at WWE. Now, whether WWE cares the way that you view them from what the wrestler said or did is a whole different story. But business-wise, straightly from that, as far as you don't want, something to happen on Twitch, or even was supposedly the rumor about Lana that she had that commercial, a third-party commercial, and, WWE didn't like that. Because you don't want someone to promote a product, for example, come to find out there's some type of history or some type of something drastic. I was going to go straight to they promote something that is porn related or something. I don't know. But you don't want them promoting a product and it's not in the views or, the standards of WWE. I get those type of things. So what I think WWE should do, which I know this is straight about their control and taking away as much money, because if a wrestler were to see how much money they can make strictly off of Twitch, and especially if they put those Twitch videos onto YouTube and make money that way, especially when you get the sponsorships and all that other stuff, it's going to be like, well, why should I even go through this and wrestle? I might as well go back to the independent scene and just keep this going. I get that. What WWE should do is they should have these agreements with the wrestlers. If you don't want anything to be tied back to, the company, you can simply say, hey, do not use your wrestling name. Don't use anything wrestling related on your Twitch or Cameo accounts. Sign this agreement that you will not mention A, B, and C. Maybe, they don't want people to break kayfabe, basically, if there's a storyline. And for example, Mia Yim and Dakota Kai tend to play video games together. If somewhere down the line, if they were in a feud, then no, you don't want to turn to Twitch and you see them two laughing it up and joking and everything. Well, that kind of don't make sense. Very similar to what happened with Lana and Rusev. Lana and Rusev was in a storyline where they were on opposite ends. They were supposed to be broken up, and then it came out that they were engaged. Well, you messed up the storyline. That's a whole different thing for me, because I don't get if they got in trouble for it, then why are you having these wrestlers put out, Twitter accounts? They can have an agreement, say, hey, do not mention A, B, and C. Do not promote third-party products. If it's about them not wanting to make too much money that they leave, you can even say a portion of your revenue should go to a certain charity. You can say that if anything happens where if you say anything detrimental or anything that puts a bad spotlight on the company, you would be subject to any fines, suspensions, and possibly up to termination. They can do something like that to let these wrestlers, find different ways to connect to their fans. Or they can say, for you to do your Twitch account, you have to mention, you have to plug the WWE product, or you have to plug, the upcoming pay-per-view, or you can't talk about this, or you can't talk about that. And from what I've read too, it seems like they want everyone to be on Twitch or Cameo. From what I just read about Cameo, it doesn't look like they will be on Cameo, because they do have the option, because it seems like there is an option to cancel Cameo. But from what I read the news from last week, it seems like there's an agreement that they have to do Twitch, which doesn't make any type of sense. It don't make sense for every single person to be on Twitch and Cameo, because for some personalities, it don't make sense. I can see Charlotte Flair possibly being on Cameo, but I don't see her really being on Twitch. I don't really see Roman Reigns, the character that he is now, which was out back in the day, and WWE tried to pull this, and you try to get The Undertaker on Twitch. He's not going to play video games, because, a dead man wouldn't play video games. It would be basically a Twitch of him digging graves and saying whose soul he's going after next. He's not going to be answering fans' questions. Maybe Paul Bearer would do something like that, but just some things don't make sense. And then, of course, there are people who are just straight up assholes to their fans. I'm thinking of Randy Orton, back in the day, who's not going to want to, give up their free time to hop on Twitch and talk to fans and be bothered by fans. I hope that they're not trying to force everyone to be on Twitch or even Cameo, that it's just an option, and that hopefully the backlash that they're receiving, especially since it's starting to hit mainstream media, that they'll kind of change up their decisioning, that they'll make it that you can't use anything tied to WWE, or, you have to set by these standards. You can't do A, B, and C. Can't promote third parties. A portion of your proceeds should go to a charity. Something like that. Because people like Mia Yim, I think I said this in a previous episode, she did a stream where she raised money for a friend to get a kidney transplant. Or like Zelina Vega said, she raised money so that someone can get surgery for their cat so they can live. Like, you mean to tell me WWE is going to take that money, and what are they going to do with it? So that Vince McMahon can get a new pair of shoes, so that Stephanie McMahon can, pump some more iron. Like, come on. It doesn't make any type of sense to me. Some other news that had came out from Clash of Champions. Angel Garza was apparently injured during his match against the Street Profits. He provided an update on his YouTube channel. I got this information from Fightful. Angel Garza said when he went to hit Montez Ford with a knee strike, he put too much weight on his plant leg and he heard a pop. And he tried to work through it, but decided not to, make the injury any type of worse. And so that's when they decided to cut the match. Angel Garza got some tests, and it looks like he suffered a minor quad tear. So he's going to be out for maybe 1 to 3 weeks. So I really hope Angel Garza rest up and really, recover from this. I really like Angel Garza. It's really a shame. The way I feel like he is not as the way he was in NXT, the promise that he was, and the way he is on the main roster are slightly different. I felt as though when I first saw Angel Garza, he reminded me so much of Eddie Guerrero. And when he would come down and he would get the kisses from the old women, and he'll try to high five someone, and he'll slap, move his hand out the way. He has the confidence, he has the cockiness, he has the skill to definitely be this generation's Eddie Guerrero. And I can see him definitely putting out very good feuds against people if they just let him shine. But I hope that he has a speedy recovery, that this injury really won't set him back. Because normally when people get injured, When they come back and they wrestle, they're a little more reserved. They kind of hold back a little bit in the ring. And I'm hoping that, Angel Garza, it won't affect Angel Garza too much. Other news, AEW Dynamite is coming up this week. Of course, it debuted over a year ago. Has been definitely very entertaining this past year. Of course, the biggest thing that they love to mention is that they have been very high in the ratings. And I was slightly shocked, I have to say, of how good they were doing in the ratings. But of course, like I keep saying, neither company is winning because we are in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone is home. There's no bars that are open or anything like that. We didn't have sports for a while until recently, and they still weren't pulling in very high numbers. So, whatever, okay? So let me go into SmackDown. We started off with a promo from Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, and he was supposed to have a little celebration, but he mentioned how Jey Uso never claimed that he was the tribal chief. Jey Uso comes out, Roman Reigns starts talking to him, saying, he was just trying to give him a payday, to be the main event, and he noticed that Jey Uso's eyes were still on the title, so Roman Reigns decided to challenge Jey Uso to Hell in a Cell. And he mentioned that he was going to put something on the line. There was going to be a stipulation, but he didn't really say what it was. He went to give Jey Uso a hug, and he was talking to him, but you really couldn't hear what he was saying because the microphone was so far away. But you see him start smiling and things like that. So I'm guessing this coming week SmackDown will get more information. From there, it led to a match between Jey Uso and AJ Styles. Jey Uso wins this match, and he was just very focused on, going against Roman Reigns. He was walking to the back, and he kept having a pep talk saying, I'm going to get him, I'm going to get him, I'm going to get him. After that, we had Otis versus John Morrison. It was a very quick match. I don't know where John Morrison is trying to be in his career. I don't know if he simply is okay right now with putting people over, because this was pretty much a squash match. And I think the match lasted definitely less than 5 minutes. So I would like to say poor John Morrison, because he definitely has talent to really shine as well, like I said with Angel Garza. But I don't know if he is just satisfied with just putting other people over. After that, we had Chad Gable versus Sheamus, which was also a very quick match. Of course, it was another squash match. It was to kind of put Sheamus over and kind of propel his feud with Big E, who challenged him to a Falls Count Anywhere match for next week's SmackDown. Carmella is the mystery woman. She said that she's untouchable and unless she doesn't want to be. Okay. And I was starting to make complaints about it, but I figured I will give this a chance. Let me see where this goes. I did like her, back when I did like her. I liked her character. I felt as though she definitely needed to get better in the ring. So I'm hoping while she was gone all this time that she has been training and has been practicing, because she tends to get a little sloppy in the ring. We also have Sasha, who challenged Bayley for a title this upcoming SmackDown, but it is a draft. So I don't know if they're going to actually have this match or if they're going to have some type of disqualification or counter or something like that. And then they'll be building up this match for, I wouldn't say Survivor Series, but maybe for Royal Rumble or something like that. We also had Jeff Hardy versus Sami Zayn for the title. Sami was able to retain his title. This was a pretty good match for the main event to close out the show. But let's get into the big news, the big thing that happened at SmackDown. And this was another chapter in the storyline of Alexa Bliss and The Fiend. They gave Alexa Bliss some name, like some twisted witch or something like that. I forgot. They said it like twice, and I really didn't care to try back to listen to it. But she was a guest on the KO show, and Kevin Owens started talking about Aleister Black and things like that. And she mentioned that people, he mentioned how she changed. And she said, well, yes, of course I've changed, change is good. And then she mentioned, have you been around him? And then Kevin Owens was like, it looks like you're brainwashed. And she says, yes, my brain has been washed. And now I can see clearly. Kevin Owens was like, he's here, isn't he? And she was like, well, he's everywhere. And she said, I can hear him right now. And then she says, let him in. Kevin Owens jumps up. The lights go down. I'm watching Raw as I'm recording this, and I see Murphy and Seth Rollins are now fighting each other, which is a long time coming. I think both guys can really be able to throw down the ring. But the lights go out, the Fiend comes, and Alexa is just sitting in the chair the whole time staring as the Fiend attacks KO. The Fiend stands up, he takes a look at Alexa Bliss, he holds out his hand, stands up, she grabs it, and she smiles at the camera. But then WWE cuts to a different camera, so you kind of missed the creepy moment, but they were able to cut it back somewhat in time to kind of see it. Some people were a little upset that the Fiend isn't going after the title instead of going after Kevin Owens. I feel as though the Fiend doesn't need to be in the title picture all the time. I kind of make the comparison between him and The Undertaker, because their thing is to, create fear and panic in whoever they face. And The Undertaker wasn't in the title picture 24/7. He had very good feuds. His feuds were definitely up there as far as the attention of the audience. And I feel the same way with the Fiend too. I feel like the Fiend doesn't need to be in the title picture. They did drop that little foreshadowing where you see Alexa Bliss staring at Roman Reigns when he was holding up the title. So she's showing that, the Fiend still has his eye on the title. But right now, he went after Kevin Owens because the whole thing with Alexa Bliss. That's my guess. Alexa Bliss is doing awesome in this role. I'm very happy that she has this character, a big change up from the character that she's kind of been for the past couple of years. She was very creepy, but you can tell like she was like basically a, I want to say disciple, but I feel like that's not the right word. But you know what I'm saying? Like she's just like a follower, basically a Harley Quinn. And she was very convincing in this promo. So I'm very happy with the next step. We'll see what happens next, how this plays out on Smackdown with her and the Fiend, if she comes out with him or anything like that. But we have the Fiend versus Kevin Owens this upcoming Smackdown as well. After that, we now get into NXT Takeover. And now we have the Mysterio family come out, and we have that drama now. We have NXT Takeover 31 that took place in the Capitol Wrestling Center, which was very beautiful. I liked it. It had fans, quote unquote, along with the Thunderdome. It had the plexiglass, but there was a fence along with the plexiglass as well to kind of makes it feel like a Fight Club type of feel. And I liked it, I don't know if those fans were actually fans or if they were Performance Center people. But a couple of them really kept forgetting that the camera is on you at any point. There was some guy, I think it was a guy, wearing a lime green shirt. I don't know what he was watching, but he obviously really wasn't watching the match like that. There was a woman who was on her phone when the camera cut to her and her mask was down. And you see her put the phone down, put her mask up, and I was like, well, you're going to get talked to later on. I think it was the same person who, I don't know if she needed to get back on the phone or something like that, but she squats down behind the barricade and you see people looking down at her as well. And we also had, whenever the announcer was making the introductions for the competitors in the match, the mic was coming down from the ceiling, what I felt was a very nice touch. It gave me more Raw underground type vibes than Raw Underground did. This pay-per-view was pretty good from top to bottom, like always. We always know the NXT Takeover matches it'll definitely give us a good time. So starting out, we had Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano, which started out for the night. This was for the NXT North American title. This match lasted for almost 19 minutes. And I thought Candice LeRae would come out during this match, but she didn't. But it was a lot of back and forth. Priest really showing... Gargano got some offense early, but Priest eventually gained some momentum as well. There was a spot where Priest went to dive over the rope, and Gargano went and grabbed some security guards in his way as well. And while the refs were checking on the security guards, Gargano did a low blow to got him back in the ring and did a super kick, but Priest was able to kick out. It was a lot of back and forth with these 1-2 kickouts for me. It felt like a little bit too much at some points, but it still was a lot of close finishes. And like I said, this was a pretty good match. Priest was able to retain his title, which I was a little surprised at, because I did have him possibly... I thought the Garganos will get their time to shine. But Johnny Gargano lost this match, and Damian Priest retained the title. So after that, we have Kushida versus Velveteen Dream. At first, I didn't know what Velveteen Dream was supposed to be dressed as, but then I found out that he was supposed to be Doc Brown from Back to the Future because of Kushida's gimmick. I'm not fond of Velveteen Dream anyway. Kushida attacked Velveteen Dream before the bell during his entrance at that, and we had a very aggressive Kushida who was just on top of Velveteen Dream for most of the match. Velveteen Dream got a little bit of offense in, but Kushida was able to get him into a submission, and he kept going for submissions over and over again. Dream was able to get to the ropes, but as we get to the end of the match, Kushida was able to get the hoverboard lock in, and he held it. He won the match, and he held on it for a while too. They went to raise his hand, but he went and kept attacking Velveteen Dream as well. And this was basically a match that just showed how aggressive Kushida is. Don't know how this will translate on NXT Live this Wednesday, if Velveteen Dream will then be out due to a quote unquote injury from what Kushida did to him. This match lasted for 13 minutes, and I liked the aggressiveness of Kushida. They definitely are letting him kind of be more himself, more hard hitting, because he wasn't trying to speak English during his promos. He was speaking in his native language, and just like what they were doing with Io Shirai, I think their promo is like 10 times better when they speak their native language, because it definitely felt like, oh snap, he's going to kick Velveteen Dream's ass. After that, we had Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Santos Escobar. This was for the Cruiserweight Championship. Escobar retained his title for this one, which is what I predicted. In the last match, I did predict that Kushida was going to win this match. This match was, of course, incredible. We all knew that this may have been the match of the night. I definitely knew that the members of his stable was going to come out to help him maintain his title, which they did. But most of the match was mainly just Escobar, going to work with Isaiah Swerve Scott. Once Isaiah Swerve Scott was starting to get a momentum and he was starting to capitalize and possibly win the title, that's when the members of the Legado del Fantasma came in to interfere as well. Escobar didn't hit the Three Amigos, And then he went for a frog splash, which Swerve was able to get out. Then Swerve did the house call and then a 450 splash, and then Escobar kicked out. And then when the members of Legado del Fantasma was out there, I don't really watch NXT that often, so I had no idea who this person was. But apparently his name is Ashanti the Adonis. He came out to help Swerve. He fought off the members of Legado del Fantasma, and basically it was Swerve and Escobar all over again. Escobar was still able to retain his title, like I said, and this was a very good win. And he kind of won without cheating, which was very different from what I thought it would be. After that, we had Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. I thought Candice LeRae would maybe win the title due to help from her husband. And we did see her get some help from her husband. There was a spot where the ref was hit mistakenly by Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae she hit Io Shirai with the Wicked Stepsister, but the referee was down. And then Johnny Gargano came down with the referee shirt, and I thought this was going to be Bayley and Sasha all over again. Johnny Gargano tried to do a fast count, but Io Shirai kicked out beforehand. And then Johnny Gargano took the women's title, brought into the ring. The referee got into the ring, and him and Gargano was arguing. Johnny Gargano dropped the belt to Candice LeRae, and she went to hit Candice with the title, but she kicked out at 2. And the married couple, Johnny Gargano started throwing a fit. Candice LeRae was shocked as all hell, of course. Io Shirai, then of course, doing what Io Shirai does. She did a Spanish fly and then a moonsault, and, she was able to retain her title. And surprisingly, so far, no titles have changed hands. And I really thought that Io Shirai would lose her title here, because she did have her title for a very long time. Candice LeRae definitely looked like a contender to take the title off of her. And of course, Io Shirai looked definitely hella strong, fighting off the Gargano family. After Io Shirai wins the match, we get someone pop up on the screen, and it's Toni Storm, mentioning that she is coming to NXT and she is coming after the title. And I am all for Toni Storm to be on NXT. I like Toni Storm. I don't really get to watch NXT UK that often. From what I used to, when I was watching it a little more consistently, definitely like Toni Storm and what she brings to the ring. After that, we get a vignette of someone, the person who has been speaking and, disguising their voice, mentioning that they're coming back for their title. Didn't know if it was a man or a woman. It felt like it was a woman. Well, we get a vignette of the person driving, towards the Capitol Wrestling Center on a motorcycle. They come out to the stage, and the person takes off their helmet, and it was Amber Moon. And so I kind of popped for that, because I thought that she was going to be out for probably the rest of the year. She has a different look. She was wearing a leather jacket. She was rocking a mohawk. Very rocker-ish, Mad Max type of character. Don't know how this is going to translate with her promos and everything. I did like her gimmick where she was, with the Scorpion from Mortal Kombat type of entrance. That's how I kind of took it. So I don't know how this translates now with her being this type of character, how this would lay out. But I loved Amber Moon when she was in NXT. Of course, when she came up to the main roster, it felt like she wasn't, they really didn't know what to do with her, of course. She was very restricted. So I'm very excited to see what she does on the NXT roster. Now there kind of leaves a problem with NXT now, because they have a lot of women on there who definitely can throw down the show. And as we see with NXT Takeover normally has about 5 matches. So we do have the draft coming up later on this week. Triple H had mentioned during a call to the media that he doesn't even know if NXT will be part of the draft. It looks like it would have been cool if it was a draft between all three brands, but it wouldn't make any sense because what happens in NXT kind of stays in NXT. So it wouldn't make any sense for people to draft solely from NXT. It wouldn't have translated well because, as we all know, whenever you get brought up from NXT, they kind of change your name anyway. I mean, let's look at Slapjack and T-Bar and Mace and Reckoning and Retaliation, the members of Retribution. Let's look at Murphy, Andrade. Soon, Angel Garza will probably be known as Angel. So we all see what happens here. But I'm very happy that there are more women in NXT. Kind of gives more contenders for the women's NXT title as well. We also had a promo that Halloween Havoc is coming back. This Halloween Havoc will take place during NXT on October 28th. It looks like Shotzi Blackheart will be the host, and I kind of pop for that too because I like Shotzi Blackheart. Bit of a confession. I, of course, was always a WWE fan back in the day during the WCW days, so I never saw a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. I know of Halloween Havoc, definitely know of Halloween Havoc, I know of Bash of the Beach. I saw a little bit of Bash of the Beach one time back when Hogan was on there, and I think it was the red and white Hulk Hogan. I don't think this was NWO days. I may be wrong if Hogan wasn't on a Bash of the Beach. But I do remember tuning in and seeing Bash the Beach for just a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm going to have a special episode kind of talking about predictions or whatever for Halloween Havoc. But I'm also going to be reviewing matches from Halloween Havoc. And I've been asking people to give me some suggestions. And then what I was trying to do, what I thought would be cool, since I go on to different wrestlers' Twitch accounts, I was going to ask those wrestlers some of their favorite matches from Halloween Havoc. Haven't really been successful so far, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep on trying. But I have a few matches that I will be reviewing. So if there is a match from Halloween Havoc you would like for me to review, definitely send me a tweet. Let me know on Twitter under the podcast as well, and I will definitely shout you out and review whatever match you pick out. So now let's get to the main event. NXT Championship, Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly. This was a very hard-hitting, stiff match. Both men come out of this match with injuries. Finn Balor injury looks definitely real. I think Kyle O'Reilly's injury may be real. The way that he reacted when he took a shot to the gut, definitely he kind of like stepped back and kind of waved off, and he was on the ground for a little bit of time too. This was a very good match. This match lasted for 29 minutes, and it was worth every single second of it. Normally, whenever a match goes on for this long, I mean, we might as well have called this an Iron Man match for the way this was going. But normally when matches go on for this long, normally there's like a bit of a lull where the match kind of slows down and things like that. And this match was just nonstop. It was very hard hitting. I felt bad for Kyle O'Reilly because he was bleeding from the mouth. And I'm like, this dude, I don't know if it was his ribs or his kidney or liver. I don't know what it was. But I'm like, you could tell he was obviously in pain. He was just fighting through it, which I definitely get props for. Finn Balor, I don't even know where his injury came from. Towards the end of the match, he was bleeding and the blood was like definitely dark red. So I don't know if it was his jaw or, WWE came out saying that he was having his jaw looked at, and there may have been a facial injury that he may have had. But this was just hard hitting. A lot of back and forth. It did start out with Finn Balor getting the momentum, especially after he did that kick to Kyle O'Reilly as well. But this was pretty much back and forth. Balor did his 1960 finisher. Kyle O'Reilly kicked out. Then he also did a coup de grace, and Kyle O'Reilly was able to block it, tried to do a dragon screw. Kyle O'Reilly he was working on Balor's left knee, trying to do a, submission, trying to take out, Finn Balor's leg as well. This match was it was a lot. It definitely was a lot. Finn Balor was able to retain his title. I was very shocked. None of the titles had changed hands at this pay-per-view. And I normally would expect at least one title to change hands. Not really sure as far as with the Garganos, what they're going to do with it. But I understand as far as with Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. I did predict Finn Balor to retain his title, but I wouldn't have been upset if Kyle had won the match. I was somewhat fine with the finish because the match went so long and both guys were having injuries that, it wasn't going to be anything. It wasn't like very exciting as a lot of matches are. But this match definitely told the story of Kyle refusing to give up, especially him being injured. Finn Balor showing that he is willing to do anything to retain his title. I mean, bleeding from the damn mouth. You can tell like there's something injured on his face. Afterwards, both men shook hands, and out of nowhere we get Ridge Holland, who was by the barricade, and he had Adam Cole over his shoulder, and then dumped Adam Cole ringside, and then just smoothly walk away. Kyle O'Reilly went to go check on Adam Cole, and we also saw Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish, who ran down, didn't know what was happening, asking Finn Balor, "Did you see what happened?" I'm sitting here like, Finn Balor just wrestled for 25 minutes. No, he didn't see what happened. And, they were sitting there like, what happened? Oh my God, how did this happen? And this, that, and the third. So a lot of questions that's going to have to be answered come NXT Live this Wednesday. Did Ridge Holland attack Finn Balor on his own? Did he do it at the call of Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong? Was it even Kyle O'Reilly who did it himself? Who knows? So we'll see what happens on NXT Live this coming week. And like I said, we have the draft this coming week with starting Friday with Smackdown, ending on Raw with the end of the draft as well. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Giving some shout outs to Julian Rob Bates from the Wrestling Court podcast on TurtleMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next podcast. Nando and Larry from Half K podcast. Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. And my boys over at Powerbomb Jitsu. So next week, it will be a recap of the draft. We will see who may get taken from NXT, who is going to SmackDown, who is going to Raw, what potential storylines will be there as well. And I'll also be recapping AEW Dynamite with 30 years of Chris Jericho. I'm sure I don't know how they're going to do it because they can't really show any clips from WWE, but I'm sure that they'll talk about his work over in New Japan and of course him in AEW as well. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDE Talks, and follow the podcast at WrestleBread as well. The podcast is also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Be sure to leave a review. Let me know your thoughts wherever you're listening to this podcast. And like I said, let me know what match from Halloween Havoc you would love for me to review as well. And until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.